what I seen was a man coming down from the truck. Like, he looked like he was gliding on water. He was coming down really slow, and he didn't touch the ground. He was 2 to 3 feet off the ground, and he didn't have a man's feet. He had a coyote's lower body and the tail.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Mist monsters and bullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth out there like a blade it cuts. Mist monsters and bullets run amok.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methenkamp. If you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, send me a message there, or just leave a comment on this video. I'll find a way to get a hold of you. Just a reminder, October 4th, Ado, Ohio, the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree. I'll be there. Nevermore Hollows, Drunken Cryptids, Chumming with the Spirits. So many podcasters will be there. It was a great time last year. It'll be even better this year. Hopefully we see you out there. All the support I've been getting over the last couple of months has been absolutely amazing, and I really do appreciate it. If you haven't yet, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Like, comment, share, tell a friend about the show. If you think they'll like it, let them know about me. When you're leaving a comment like 47 times. You know, the algorithm will love that, and it'll push me out to more people. You guys have spoken and I've listened. We're going to keep the intros as short as possible from here on out. So with that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methenkamp. On tonight's show, we have Don Yazzie. And I found him because a good friend of the show, Rod from Lodge Tales, was a guest on his live, and I went in to support Rod, and I was watching these guys. I'm like, man, they got a good thing going on too. So Don, why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yeah, my name is Don Yazzie, host of Don't Whistle at Night podcast with the United Public Radio Network. Yeah, just been not really doing this that long. I'm still new to the community, still new to this podcast shows, and being a guest on other people's shows as well. And, I was always asked to come on a podcast, and for about a whole year, I've been putting it off, like, no, I'm not ready to show my mug across the internet, and that whole deal, just keeping it quiet, you know what I mean? Just keep myself for my family. And, I reached out to William Jevning back in 2020, I believe, during pandemic, because, 2017, well, basically my whole life, we've been dealing with a guy called Bigfoot, Sasquatch. And, we've been dealing with the Skinwalkers as well. And, it's hard to tell the difference between both. Like everyone on the reservation says that if you're looking, you're expecting it's a Skinwalker, you're looking into it, but it turns out it's a Bigfoot. And then while, you're looking into Bigfoot, you're out really late at night, 3 a.m, and you run into a huge, gigantic spaceship, just hovering in the sky, lighting up the whole sky like the sun came out. You got all these things that go on when the sun goes down and when everyone's asleep. And, the high strange happen, especially with the full moon. And, being always a curious child, wandering around, listening to everyone's stories, with only the kerosene lamp and the fire, and, everyone drinking that hard black Folgers coffee, and everyone Yeah, everyone's speaking Navajo. Everyone's speaking Dene. So I was born and raised on the Navajo Nation, like I said, and we had no electricity, we had no running water, so every drop of water mattered. Every drop of water count, I should say, every counted because we had livestock. We had horses, we had cattle, we had sheep, we had chickens, we had cats and dogs, you name it. And every once in a while, you know, you would have somebody something come late at night, and all your dogs fighting, and your animals being taken one by one. And you would hear something trying to get in the house, looking in through the windows, running on the roof, hitting the side of the house or the trailer, and full grown adults just running around shooting, just shooting, and
Like through the
even
walls?
yeah, even through the doors. Yeah, my uncle was famous for that, with a 30-30, bah, bah, bah. So whenever my uncle was there, you had to be ready, like, you know, because he'd be shooting first, and he has a crazy story that I shared on a few podcasts where he swears that he shot a skinwalker, but he said that the skinwalker looked like a giant gorilla. He was trying
Really?
to crawl in the window. Yeah, he was trying to crawl in the window, and his head and his shoulders were barely able to fit through the window, and his arm was reaching through. Long, long, black, hairy arms. So it's reaching in like about halfway in the window. This is a older trailer from the 70s, 80s, I think. It's an older trailer. And, we would all take care of my great grandmother. And, as a child, this thing would always come around, especially when there's women and children there. And, this night, my uncle happened to come down 4 hours away. And he got there, and he got in the closet, waiting. And he had the window open. And he sat in the closet. So this closet is kind of like across from this window. So this old sliding door, it's a sliding door to your closet. So he sat in there. He put like a chair in there. He sat in there with his dog. He had a bull mastiff, and he waited. So the sun went down. He was loaded, locked and loaded, ready to go. And so the breeze came through the window and it hit him in the face. He fell asleep. You see, he doesn't know how. That's what witchcraft uses a lot. And I don't know if Bigfoot uses that at all, because I'm a victim to that. Falling asleep, just laughing 1 second and then going to sleep, and hearing something coming into the tent and screaming like an old lady, bloody murder. And the only thing I can do is, get up on my knee. There's like 18 of us camping out, all of us going to sleep. But I had two cousins, in the sleeping bag. This is all in the same area, high, strange area where I come from. So, anyways, back to my uncle's story. So this thing's been bothering, my aunts, my mom, and my great grandmother. And this night we didn't stay there because my uncle came. So we went back to my grandpa's house, to shower and all that, because he had electricity and running water. My uncle was at my great grandmother's, and it was just all kerosene lamp, the old school. And so, yeah, he fell asleep, and his dog, her name was Suma, so it was a bull mastiff, and she was headbutting him. She was licking his face, trying to wake him up. She was whining and crying, and he finally came to, and he looked through the crack of that closet that he cracked open. That's when he seen. He said there's a huge black gorilla fitting his head in, taking his head out, sticking his arm in, his shoulders in, sticking his arm out, fitting his head until finally he said it got his head and his shoulders in, but it was too huge to get his other shoulder in to crawl into the window. And what he did was he kicked open the sliding door and he threw his dog out to this thing. His dog tackled it, and they fell out the trailer window. Boom! And he stood up. And he was trying to run out into the hallway, but he was stumbling all through the hallway, that little narrow hallway, the trailer. He's stumbling. He said he couldn't coordinate. Something was off. Meanwhile, the dog, you can hear them fighting and rolling. He made his way finally to the front door. You know, he said that he had a flashlight as well. So he turned on his flashlight. He opened the door. Just then, the dog and that gorilla thing rolled underneath the truck. And he said, they're fighting, and he said he heard his dog yelp. And his dog came out from underneath the truck. And he said that as soon as his dog came out, he heard ba 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 ba, like something huge, boom, 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 just running fast like a helicopter propeller. That's how Bigfoot sounds when he runs, like a giant helicopter propeller. You feel the ground shake too, boom, 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 when he's running like the Hulk, like the
Yeah.
Hulk. So that's what was
So
going
let me
on.
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Everything you're describing sounds just like a Bigfoot. So
Right.
why would you think or he think that it was a skinwalker?
A lot of the well, you know, I gotta wait till he gets out of prison to ask him that again. My uncle's a little wild. He's a wild uncle.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe I can ask him. He's in a clear state of mind right now.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, but yeah. So anyways, the older generation, they're told not to talk about Bigfoot, not to mention Bigfoot or tell stories about Bigfoot because he'll come around and take you.
So
And
so kind of like what the lore behind the skinwalker. You don't talk about it. You don't think about it
everything
because
that
you're asking for it to come around. So kind of the same thing with Bigfoot.
they say that it brings the negative vibes, the bad energy, all that whole deal. So they'll start to pray. Hey, be quiet. They even renamed the bear. Like right now the Navajo name for bear is shush. Shush. And then the old term was Cisnajini. So that means like the mountaintop dwellers, the mountain. That's who they are, the bears. So they didn't want to say Cisnajini, so they said shush, shush. The shush them up is actually means be quiet. Shush. So actually we changed it, boom, to that. And then like when we would see Bigfoot, the older generation, they would say a bear. It's a bear on two legs running around taking my sheep. It's a bear running around looking in my window. It's just the older generation that puts that in your head because you would have a lot of ceremony, fire ceremony, because at one point in time, our older generations would say, for some reason, the bears would kidnap Navajo children, would like to kidnap them, so they would have to find them a lot and track them down using crystal gazers and hand tremblers, the Navajo medicine man societies to track them down the loved ones. So when they would retrieve the child would be wild. It'd be crazy, crazy. So they would have to do all kinds of ceremonies, and that child would always be left hand. So like a lot of our tribe, they associate the kids that are left-handed to be like descendants from bears or was kidnapped by a bear, their ancestor, and then they were recovered, but the wildness still stayed in the family. So that comes with the left hand. Also, that they're the best warriors as well, the left-handed southpaw fighters.
Wow. Wow. So what is the Navajo word for Sasquatch then?
Yei so,
I'm not even going to
yei
try to say it.
so, yei. Say yei
Yei.
so.
Yei
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yei so. Yeah,
Yei so. Okay.
then the other one is a husking. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher it. There's other word that means the hairy man. Husking zlugi. Yeah, I may be saying it wrong, but that's how my grandmother would say Sasquatch.
Okay.
She seen Bigfoot. My grandpa seen Bigfoot. My mom, she seen Bigfoot. She was chased by Bigfoot. My sister was chased by Bigfoot, and he's always been around my family, so for who knows how long. So
Yeah.
it's
So
pretty.
so
Everyone's quiet about it.
so do the Navajo consider Bigfoot flesh and blood or a spirit?
Both. You may
Both.
have some that will say he's a spirit. He's a he's a holy man. That's the other word. He's the holy man.
Okay.
Because throughout our time, he always came through and helped us out. During the time of genocide, when we had the cavalry and all the enemy tribes, blitz us from everywhere. And he came through in the clutch, making a woven like a sack, a bags full of juniper berries so that we would survive. And he would keep the cavalry enemy scouts away from children, the children that couldn't hide with the adults and their family. They would place all these disabled children in this hogan, and they would, build a fire, have water, food, just as long as, like, we're going to go hide. We can't take you because, this guy's disabled, something wrong with this other kid. So this village put all their children in this hogan, and they made a run. They went to hide out for 9 years. When they came back, the war was over. They came back from hiding, and they got closer to that community. They seen fire coming from that hogan. They started running back. When they opened the door, they went inside, and they seen all their kids. They're all grown, a little bit bigger. They were hiding for 9 years. All of them were still alive. Yeah, all of them were alive and healthy. And then they asked them, who's taking care of you guys? Who's who built a fire for you? There's like soup cooking over the fire. There's all kinds of water. There's all kinds of things that someone's taking really good care of them. They asked them, who's doing this for you? And they said, oh, it's the hairy man. It's the hairy man. He's keeping the enemies away. He's keeping the enemy scouts away. He's keeping the U.S. cavalry away. And then, like they said, that when one of us gets sick, he takes that sick child. He brings that sick child back 3 days later. And the other child would get sick. He'd take the other child. And then 3 days later, bring back that child well.
So there's kind of a yin and yang with the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, because at the beginning it sounded like when you're saying, if you think about or talk about Bigfoot, he shows up and it's kind of a scary thing. Don't do that. But then at the same time, he's also protecting and helping.
Yeah, it's kind of, I can't put my thumb on that guy, but all I know is he's a real creepy guy. He knows, like, he's seen all the horror movies, and he's doing a better job than all those guys. Like Michael Myers staring at you by the clothesline. He does all that, but even better, way better. Right. Yeah, he's just a creepy guy. I'm always going to be curious. They always got warned, left and right. Got laughed at, saying that, yeah, he's going to rape you. From that to, my to my in-laws saying that, keep chasing him. Wherever you're going to put your tent, there's going to be a giant boulder on top of that tent. Or if you're not in the tent, wherever you're sleeping, cowboy camping, there's going to be a big boulder on top of your head when we find you. Don't bother him. That's what they would say.
Wow. So usually when people get into the paranormal, whether it's cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, whatever it is, there's usually one event that is that turning point where where I'm going with this question. What was that turning point for you where it's like, okay, now I've got to look into this stuff?
That's a really hard question to really narrow it down, because it's always been a part of our life on the Navajo Nation. It's just we just know about the spirit realm. We know about our physical realm. We know about the supernatural realm. We even see the supernatural battle spill out into the physical realm. You see all kinds of things. Like, I can go on for days on that, but
let me rephrase that question then. You've talked about all the warnings that you've gotten from your family and, things like that about not looking into this or not going out searching for Bigfoot or whatever. But you do that, right?
Yeah, it all started back when I was 18 years old. We were warned a lot. Actually, I'm gonna have to go further back to 13 years old. Because reason why, 13 years old, it was the summertime, and half of my family, my grandma, my grandpa's family, where I was raised, my grandmother's family were Christian. They were Christian, and my grandpa's family were traditional, Navajo traditional. So we're at my grandmother's family, and it could be like around 11 to 1 o'clock in the morning. This is many years ago. Have your Mountain Dew. Oh, watch out. I was just kidding. So
Maybe I can get a sponsorship.
Summon the sponsorship.
That's
That
right.
was good. So yeah, we're at my grandmother's family. So they have this huge, gigantic tent, a revival tent. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like a huge
Mhm.
circus tent. They have the church going.
Yeah.
Featured the platform, the whole deal. So a lot of the men, even like mainly the men would camp there. They would camp there with their rifles and spotlights because they would have to take care of it because a lot of times these skinwalkers would come in. They would come in and they would place curses. Like even at the center pole, the tent. They would even go to the pulpit, to the seats, to the chairs. They place curses. They'd be, these guys are really bad people, and we had to make sure, try to stop them at least, or tell them that hey, we're here. And that's another story I'll tell you on that. So this was I was 13, and we're going like the code there is we always have to walk around in threes. We have to stick together no matter what. There's no man alone there. We're all family, and everyone has rifles. So I was walking out the tent with my uncle. He was probably like about 4 years older than me, I would say. I was 13, and then I was walking with another relative of mine. He was a year older than me. We were all walking out the tent, and we're talking about something. We're speaking about something. I can't remember. And I was looking up at the moon, and I heard my grandpa's one of my grandpa's old Chevy. Like something jumped off of it. You heard the springs, the shocks, that need to be replaced, make the noise, and we all three of us looked that way. And what I seen was a man coming down from the truck, like he looked like he was gliding on water. It was weird. I know he was coming down really slow, and he didn't touch the ground. He was 2 to 3 feet off the ground, and he didn't have a man's feet. He had a coyote's lower body and the tail, and his upper torso. He had no shirt on. He had a lot of jewelries, a lot of turquoise, silver. He had a lot of rings on. He had a lot of bracelets on. Um, he had some face paint on, and I think there was some symbols on his torso, some strange symbols, and he had a Navajo blanket draped around him, covered around him, and he had a coyote pelt on, and it was yellow and white face paint he had, and all three of us froze there. We stopped. We were staring at him, and he was staring at us. And my uncle, he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's a Loshi." He took off. My cousin took off behind him. I was still standing there watching this guy, looking at him. And then, I heard like a gunshot, and the bullet flying. And this guy, he zigzagged back onto the dirt road, all the way down the dirt road, all the way, probably covered about 5 miles within the span of a few seconds. And the whole time he looked like a lightning bulb, like flash, like that, like that. And I turned around. I was by myself, and I ran into the tent. And by the time I got into the tent, majority of us were teenagers. Everyone was doing a huge dog pile, and I was the last one onto that dog pile. I was a cherry on top.
So who shot at it?
No, it's the sound of it ticking off.
Oh, so nobody
Nobody
really shot
shot.
at it. That was just the sound that you heard as it took
Yeah,
off.
took off,
Okay.
and it looked like lightning bolt flying, like going down the dirt roads, zigzagging all the way till it was gone.
So the lower half
Coyote.
is a coyote. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
only saw the lower half, you would think that that's just a coyote.
yeah. If the lower half is standing up,
Right.
normally the lower half is like, you know what I mean?
Right. But
It's
but was
crazy.
it proportional? Like did it look like it was big enough to support a human torso?
Yeah, yeah. It's all black magic. It's witchcraft, straight up witchcraft, but Native
So
American.
basically this was a skinwalker.
Yeah, this is a witchcraft.
Holy cow.
rogue medicine men. You know, it's because each medicine man have that ability. Because how to describe this skinwalker is the best thing I can describe to you is that George Lucas, he borrowed that whole idea off of Native Americans, the dark side and the light side, same concept. So the medicine men are basically a Jedi. So, if you really think of it that way, there's those that work for the good of humanity, that can heal, that can do magic. I've seen things that will make you question reality. They can make a crystal rock project what you done, where you lost your keys, or where your keys is, or who sold your keys, or who stole something, where is it at. They'll show you. This is all back in the 90s before we had cell phones, right? So, this is I don't know what to tell you. This is
Did,
it's
did
just what
the
we yeah, go ahead.
you said it, the face paint,
Mhm.
it was yellow and white, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Did that have any significance, those colors?
No, that's pretty much a mystery still, because each individual skinwalkers have their own unique face paint.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Native American culture, so I'm asking
Yeah,
stupid
like
questions.
yeah. Oh, no. It's actually a good question. It's actually a good question because one of our chief warriors. So we had 12 chiefs all the time. 6 chiefs were peace. 6 chiefs were war chiefs. So one of our 6 chiefs, his name was Manuelito. He's from Bears Ears, Utah, Cedar Mesa, Utah, southeast Utah area. So he was also known as the Angry Warrior, and his face paint was the Angry Warrior face paint. So right here would be black, right here would be white. So the whole bottom would be black and be white. And then some like the Hopi witches, they would have stripes, white, black, and they would be in a clown suit. Like they have that little. I don't know if you ever seen a Hopi clown. So they'd be like that, but they'd be 12 feet, 13 feet running around laughing. So
Wow.
that's the Hopi witch, and they have black around the mouth and around the eyes.
Holy cow.
Scary.
Okay. I knew that. I mean, I shouldn't say I knew. I think maybe it's a misconception or whatever it is with people like myself that the paint has depending on the colors, depending on the pattern or whatever, has a certain significance. And I guess that
Mm-hmm.
was the question I was asking is
Yeah.
does it really have a significance, or is it like you become whatever and you choose the paint that you put on?
Yeah, it's a significant, just like for the individual.
So it's more personal rather than I can recognize. So say like in the U.S. military, you can look at
Mm-hmm.
the bars and stripes on their uniform and tell what their rank is or whatever.
Yeah.
The war paint or whatever doesn't have that kind of significance, though, right?
Yeah, they would, like each of them would have different war paint. They would be, it'd be for like one would be for angry, one of them would be for like the win, the assassin. There'd be different
Okay,
badges of honor type of deal. But the highest classes of warriors that we had were the ones that had the turkey feathers, that had 4 feathers. Like so those guys would be the one that would sacrifice themselves. They would not retreat. Because, like,
gotcha.
if you hunt a turkey, the turkey, the biggest one, would come out and spread his wings. He'd show you where his heart is. And then he'd be telling his people, go run and hide. I'm giving myself today. Another day, you guys go run and hide, make more babies. And he's going to the enemy like this. Then, boom. So, same concept, for us Navajo men. So, there's different societies of warriors. So, those guys were the ones that went in and offered themselves to while our people had to run and hide. We're the second place hiding seat champions. Bigfoot is first place.
Second place. That's good. That's good. I
Oh
like that.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what we say. What we say on the western side of Navajo Nation. Like our whole side, we relied we relied a lot on witchcraft, because we all descended from that. We had to use our magic. Like a lot of us would say, don't be afraid of the dark. And we say, why? The dark is like a blanket, a magic blanket that we put around ourselves and made us disappear from the enemy. If it wasn't for the night, you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Be thankful for the night, but you stay inside when it's full. The moon is full. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See, I told you we're going to go off on tangents, and it's fine.
Oh yeah, yeah. I already knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, answering your questions.
Yeah. So we were way back when you were we were talking about the Skinwalker. So let's pick back up there, and so the thing takes off, and you're the cherry on top on the dog pile. So
Yeah, cherry on top of the dog pile, and ever since then, it's like there's a lot of things going on out here. Everyone knows what's going on, and I started asking the family, more about skinwalkers, and it turns out like my great grandparents, they were medicine men and women by day. At night, they were skinwalkers.
really,
Yeah, and then in between there, they're alcoholics.
wait a minute, what's in between day and night?
Yeah, the yin yang.
Yeah.
So
No, I was
yeah,
making a joke because you said by day they were medicine men and
yes.
women, and then by night they were skinwalkers, and in between they were alcoholics. I was trying to figure out where the in between was.
Oh man, it's all bad. It's all bad. Yeah, it wasn't good. But they met a white missionary out in a community that spoke perfect Navajo, and he was reading from the Bible. And they're like, they heard what he was saying. They're listening, and they're like, I get to start over again. That's what got them. You know what I mean? They're like, I feel horrible. I feel bad. This feeling, I don't feel good. Can I start over again? Type of deal. And they did. They gave up their ways. They had a lot of children, but the family that we came from were always doing that. And a lot of my grandparents died because they placed like pills and poison. They lost a lot of kids. Doing all
Wow.
kinds of witchcraft. So with that Skinwalker deal, it's blood in, blood out type of deal. And if you mess with them, they'll come and take one of your family members, or they'll take your whole family member and make you watch. Oh, everyone dies around you.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
it's
now I understand why
pretty
you
nasty.
wouldn't want to invoke a skinwalker by talking about it or dwelling on it.
There's certain ways you can take them out. My great grandfather was one, and he turned into a local skinwalker slayer in that community in his day. And he would capture them and he would drag them around communities telling everyone who this person is. And 3 days later, that person would die. And they would come to him and say, this is going on over here. And he would hunt that skinwalker down. He would know how to find them and how to get them. And he passed that on down to my uncle. And then, my uncle kind of passed it down to some of us boys in the family.
So,
And
wait a
my
minute.
grandpa
So wait a
was
minute.
doing this.
I heard something there. I heard something there. Are you saying that you hunt skinwalkers?
Yeah, when I can. When I can, but this day and age, the recession,
Do you need a license for that?
no, no, you just gotta have guts.
Is there a bat?
No, no, no. It's
Man,
usually they're never alone, but you got to deal with two all the time. There's always two.
really?
Yeah, they're never alone. Never ever alone. You take one down, three more will come.
I keep telling Rod I want to come out to Montana and visit the Blackfeet Reservation.
Hmm.
I'm not coming to visit you because I don't want to hunt skinwalkers.
There's certain ways you can take them down and protect yourself. But I'm not gonna share because
No.
we don't need we don't need
I wasn't
anybody
trying to
going
pry
there.
that way. I was just trying to make a joke.
But if you want to come with the GoPro, go for it. Well, hey, a lot of
Do
times,
I need body armor or
maybe maybe dragon breath. double buckshot.
Okay.
Bring some of that. Yeah, we got a lot of things other than skinwalkers here. We got Centaur. Let's see here. We got Gargoyle. Let's see here. We got a dragon serpent type giant snake type of deal. We got portals that opens up in the washes here and there. There's a certain wash. There's another wash. There's multiple areas that I know that has a portal, and these portals have these little beings coming out, little gnome looking things. And there's other areas, hollow earth entrances, that my in-laws got chased out of, and also where the centaur goes in. And not only the centaur, there's like about 5 foot giant spiders type of deal. So we got all these things that we sharing home with our whole life, and there's always they always told us don't go out at night. The night time's for them. That's the children of the night. Because the centaur, his eyes is black and it's big because he can see in the dark. Like my part of the reservation, they have like white face paint. Then the central part of the reservation, they have white face paint. And then Apache, Southern Arizona, they have different face paint on. So he runs from mountain to mountain here, and so does Sasquatch. So then you also got the Lizard Man too, another character in the whole can of worms. After you get in that rabbit hole, there's another can of worms, another can of worms. So we can go either way with this.
We've got so many things to unpack here.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about the centaur. Hey, have you
Okay.
seen one?
No, but my family member did, and my mother also did, running around the trailer. Like when I started doing my cryptid investigation, I've been doing this for like about 10 years now, probably over 10 years on the Navajo Nation. So, like I got crazy stories from all these firsthand accounts from all these witnesses, and nobody is lying because you got these patterns, you got the same thing, correlation that keeps going on. You got multiple eyes, but us being Navajo, we're told to zip
Yeah.
it. You have to be kind of
Are you
special.
able to tell any of these encounters?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, the first time that we actually heard of centaur, I had been about 15 years old. We're staying at my grandmother's place, another, around the same area on the reservation, and this night I decided to go back to my uncle's place, and it was my aunt with my little cousin brothers there, so there's three of them jumping on a trampoline. Excuse me. It was like around 11 at night, and my aunt's yelling at the boys outside, "Get inside! The Skinwalker's gonna come and get you." So the two younger ones jumped off screaming, and my other cousin, he's a little bit older. He had been like about 9 or 11 around there. He was jumping, looking at doing a circle on the trampoline. By the time he was making his way back to the octagon, he heard a horse coming, walking up towards him. And by the porch of that door, it was solar power lights. So we had a porch light there. And that porch light was casting on the trampoline. And you jump off the trampoline, you're on the porch and then the door. So and then the other side was where the water trough is for the horses, because horses come from miles away, drink water there. And we always think it's horse, every time drinking the water. But this night, it turns out it wasn't a horse. So he heard this thing coming up, and he was making his full circle. By the time he made his, facing that thing that was coming towards him, he was expecting a horse. And what he seen was something a lot taller, with giving off huge red eyes, glowing eyes, he said. And he said he doesn't know how he made it to the porch from the trampoline. He said he was just locked in eye to eye. He jumped off the trampoline onto the porch. He was making his way to the screen door to get into the door. So when he got to the handle, he froze. And he said the light that it was casting, this scimitar, came into the light. I guess its lower body is a black horse, and its upper torso is a man's torso, long hair, and he said it had white face paint Um,
So the upper body, like in the face, did he say was it um like a native face or you know?
yeah,
Okay,
cheekbones,
right.
dark pigment, thick black hair, really thick
Okay.
black hair, fine black hair, like it's well kept. Yeah, and this was seen at night. It's giving off red eyes.
What do you make of the red eyes? Because you hear that a lot in a lot of different cryptid encounters. What do you make of that?
Could be, you know, depends on what light's giving off light. Maybe he's reflecting. Because when I seen my Sasquatch when I was 18, he was his eyes was giving off amber reflection.
So it was eye shine though.
I don't know. I'm trying to ask him. He doesn't really like talking about it still. He's a man. He's a man now. He has his own family, and I try to ask him
Let me.
about that.
We kind of. I asked the wrong question there. I was talking about your Bigfoot. It was
Oh,
eye
I was talking
shine.
about Scimitar. Yeah, we're
I know.
talking
I kind of crossed
about.
paths there because you brought up the Bigfoot and you said something about the amber eyes, and then I was
Yeah,
asking, was the amber eyes eye shine?
yeah. No, it was giving off light because of my uncle. I'll lead you into that story right after the Scimitar because it
We
happened
can
right
finish up
after.
the Centaur thing.
Okay.
I kind of got ahead of myself there.
Oh no no okay. Wait. So when you go back to the Scimitar?
Yeah,
Or
let's finish the
okay,
Centaur before we go into the
okay.
Bigfoot because I want to hear about a Centaur because I've never had somebody talk about that before.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So he this thing came into the light of the porch, and my cousin finally he said he used all his strength just to use his thumb to open that screen door. He finally got it through. He said that he just fell in, boom, screaming. And my aunt, she ran to him, and she heard that thing running around the octagon really fast, and it was doing a native war cry. It was running around, and she was yelling at it in Navajo, leave us alone, we're not bothering you, go bother someone else. And there's a dirt road about 3/4 of a mile away from that octagon, and this vehicle is traveling southbound, and she's like, "Why don't you go bother that person in that vehicle and leave us alone?" Then that thing started galloping towards that vehicle. They looked out the window. They seen that vehicle stop for about a good minute, and they seen that vehicle peel off, taking off really fast down there. They said that when it went down the hill, they said they heard the galloping coming back, and they heard that thing screaming, and it was bothering them all night. And
So in the lore though, are they normally seen as evil?
oh man, I asked an elder about that. Like what's their place? And they're all under Lele. In Navajo, that means they're the magic beings. They're the magic people. So Lele, like on Facebook, my handle Lele Nalka. So that's my team. Like it means mystical investigators. Yeah. So that's all underneath them. There's also seen. There's all kinds of other creatures that we share our land with, and we always known about them. But the Centaur, we've known that he goes from mountain to mountain. He sticks to his routes, and there's also his family. There's little baby Centaurs, and there's also females too. They'll be playing with the dogs that are tied up outside. You know, while everyone's asleep, there'll be a lot of them in that little community. Just walking around, doing whatever. They're really curious. But when they hear somebody, they all scatter. They hide, and they all gallop away. Before the sun comes up, they make their way to the mountain before the sun comes up. That's what a lot of the elders always shared. And, down in the central area, this one lady, she's in this wash, this really big wash. She was exercising and she was running. And she said, she came up to this huge being. She said she thought it was a moose or a horse, and she looked up, it was a man's body. I think she said the horse body is buckskin. Then the same thing, his upper torso was a Native American, darker skin, dark hair, and his eyes was black, and he had yellow face paint on. his hair was really thick and wavy. She said. Guess she said he stared. This is in the evening time. I guess he kind of startled, kind of stepped back, looking at her. And she said that he had a disgusted look on his face, and he took off. He went straight up across the wash, up and over the hill. We also have Navajo Nation police stories too of chasing them in that wash. They're doing their checks in the wash because you got people in the wash drinking. You got people doing who knows what in the wash, and then those police officers have to go check it through spotlight, and they'll see these centaurs run around, come out.
Oh, but are they normally seen as like bad?
No, they don't bother us.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that night, I don't know, maybe he just wants to mess with my family members. Every
He's,
now and then
he's
he
feeling
comes
ornery.
around. Yeah, every now and then he does come around that same area. They see him run around the houses. He does his war whoops running
Hmm.
around. We don't know if it's the same cat or not. I'm like getting all my equipment together. I just need some time. Need some
Yeah.
time to go camp out at home. Bills don't pay themselves.
Yeah, I'm not. Wow. I don't know what to make of that because Rod had also talked about the horsemen.
Hmm.
Basically the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I don't
It's
know.
pretty cool. Different cultures all have the same similar stories.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
And that's why I like talking to like you and Rod because people like me, a lot of times I hear it all the time. That the your stories, well, that's just made up stuff. But when I talk to people like you, people like Rod, who've actually seen these things or have firsthand accounts from people who have seen these things, you know, just because people, the English people or whatever you want to call it, Western people, whatever you want to call us,
Hmm.
um, you know, we really need to stop thinking that just because we had colleges and these higher learning establishments that somehow we know better than the people who lived through this stuff.
Mm.
And that's why I like these conversations because it kind of sheds the light on we don't know as much as we think we do.
Yeah, yeah. That's the reason why I steered clear of those so-called big professors or researchers. Because just not too long ago they're calling us a savage. so,
Right.
so I'm
Right.
like, I'm like being picky on who I speak with. And you like yourself. You're a friend of Rod's, and whoever's a friend of Rod's can be a friend of mine as well. So I'm
I
honored to meet
appreciate
you.
that. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah. I like having these conversations because I don't claim to know anything. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
I've
don't.
had a couple of experiences with stuff, but the things that I've had experiences with makes me say, well, if that exists, I can't rule out anything, and
Yeah,
I need to find out from the people that have been here longer than my people. No,
yeah.
so yeah, but I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed Centaur. I wouldn't have.
Wait till you
That
hear
that would.
about goat.
No, I've listened to some of Rod's
I ran
episodes on
into
Goat
him.
Man. Holy cow,
Yeah,
dude!
yeah. It's probably, I don't know. Him and Bigfoot are neck and neck, but I know Bigfoot can just go like that to me. But the goat man, that's
To me,
that's a real.
the Goat Man just sounds like pure evil.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it is. It's pure evil. That's what I got off of him, staring at him. Like trying to make sense of what I'm looking at. But that's all after my Bigfoot encounter.
So you've seen Goat Man too?
Yeah, with the same
Yeah,
cousin
we're
that's seen
we're gonna have
Centaur.
this is going to be like a 6-part series. I can tell you right now.
Yeah,
So everybody listening at home, get used to seeing Don because you're going to see a lot of him in season 3. I can tell you that.
it's with the same cousin that's seen the Bigfoot with me.
Let's talk about your Bigfoot encounter. Let's do that.
Oh, okay, man, I just skipped my my Skinwalker deal when I was a child. I got my hair cut by
Then
a
let's do that.
Skinwalker.
Let's do the skin. Let's however we want to do it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. This was
So
when I was.
we had the half coyote skinwalker, and now we have a different one.
That's another. Yeah, yeah. There's three of them. Three different stories. Four of them.
Go for it. Go for it. We'll stay on skinwalker.
There's more if it can come to mind, but these ones come to mind. This one's my story. Uh, this was when I was 6 years old, right before my grandmother died. So, on the reservation, we're in this little community, and we didn't have AC. It was a summer night, or it was a hot night actually, and we're never supposed to sleep with the window open. Never ever, because you get your hair cut. You know, and if the skinwalker can't reach you, he'll reach in and grab a piece of your clothing. You know, he'll get that, even a picture. He'll steal one pair of your shoes or your sock. Anything he can get that belongs to you. But this night, I was sleeping right next to the window, and the next day, my mom, she got back from, I don't remember where she was at. She got back, she closed the window, she, yelling at me, why were you sleeping with the window open? You're supposed to close it. And while she was yelling at me, I was looking up at her, and she stopped mid-sentence, and she felt my hair. She, that I just seen on her face, the pure, her, everything just turned, like a buckle up. We're gonna be in for a ride type of deal. As a child, I knew it was gonna be bad, and I was horrified. Like, my hair is gone. I don't know what happened. Somebody obviously cut it, and we just
Like all
started.
of your hair.
No, like the swirl, like right in the center top. My hair was kind of long as a child, a little bit. Kind of had some hair, but this was noticeably missing. A huge chunk of my swirl on the top of my head was gone. Somebody cut it.
And
Yeah.
and so she sees that you have this bald spot or whatever. Did it grow back?
No. After she seen what happened, she got my grandma. They were just praying and crying, and that night I had a dream that wherever my hair was, my eyes opened on it. I don't know how to explain to you. The part of me where it was at was open, like I opened my eyes where it was at, and I was in a cave. And there was a fire, and there was all kinds of pottery. Like, I don't know if they're cooking human flesh or whatever in them potteries. And there's this lady. She had my hair. She had my hair like right here's my hair. Okay, say this is my hair. So she had it like this, and she was chanting, and I couldn't see her face. She had her hair. It was like a pepper hair. It was covering her face, and she was chanting, and she was chanting, and she started spinning me in circles, and I was getting the spins, man. I was getting the spins on the bed. I woke up crying, screaming. I was trying to get up, but I was too dizzy. Like someone was spinning me on a merry-go-round, and all I could do was grip onto the bed and scream. And whenever someone was coming close to me, I'd get dizzier and dizzier, and they'd have to step back from me, and then the spin would slow down. Like
So you were
someone.
physically spinning?
No, no, no,
Okay.
no, no. This was, I don't know what to tell you. This was internally. Like, I felt
Okay.
somebody
Okay.
spinning me, not physically, but this was, I was having nightmares. I couldn't even eat anything. I couldn't even drink anything. This was going on a couple of days. Same thing every nightmare. Same lady chanting and spinning me in circles. Saying in Navajo that I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna have any kids. All my descendants are not gonna make any footprints on this earth. All kinds of death chants. My whole family line, everything. These guys are pure evil.
And you were 6 years old?
Yeah, 6 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I guess it started when my grandpa stole the Skinwalker's pouch, his tool pouch. My grandpa was a naughty man, so he stole his pouch and took it home. And my mom said that it smelled like a rotting human flesh decaying, because they go to graves, they make bodies shrink, and they put them in that bag, and they take it to their lair. and they take that little body out, and it goes back to normal human size, and they'll cut like whatever they need off of it. They'll do cannibal. They'll even do necrophilia, necromancy. Like there's also stories of there's like strange stories of they get a body, they place the body where it's facing all four sides of the earth. They do their thing, and they bring that body back to life, and they do no good things to it, and they let that person die again. Just horrible, horrible things like that. It's really not to mess with. They do. So all these are really stories from all these witnesses, and it's not fun and games. It's real.
And that's it for tonight. Don will be back with part 2 on Saturday. Have a good night, everybody.
Shadow in the pines lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Miss Monsters and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Oh, Miss Monsters and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above the trees, grabbing hold of wonder like a southern summer breeze. Some call it crazy, others call it a lie. But listen real close as the truth passes by. The lines are blurry, the story's bold. John Methenkamp spins them into southern gold. Apparitions dancing in the smoky haze. Legends of the deep south told in hollers and bays. Bigfoot runs free, chasing shadow dreams. Aliens keep secrets like moonlight beams. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above